Colonel Andriy Lysenko, who is a spokesman for the
update on the situation in eastern Ukraine. Proszę pan Andriy.
Good afternoon, dear colleagues. The situation on the territory of Donetsk and Luhansk regions remains tense. The militants continue their attacks and shelling of the positions of the forces of the anti-terrorist operation. We detect the redeployment and movements of the Russian troops and militants, and we see the amassing of their forces and armaments in the directions of village of Pisky and towns of Marinka, Krasnohorivka, and Avdiivka in Donetsk region. The most active directions of the shelling of positions of anti-terrorist operation are still the Baltsovo, Luhansk, and Donetsk directions. On the Baltsovo direction, in the vicinity of village Nikishine, the terrorists have twice fired from and attacked and fired from mortars and small firearms a platoon of the anti-terrorist operation, and they also shelled from artillery and mortars our positions next to the Hel Ostromohila and settlements Orlova, Ivanivka, Chernukhinka, Meus. In Donetsk direction, over the last 24 hours, the bandits have more than once shelled from tanks and mortars the Donetsk airport and our positions in the settlement of Pisky. They also shelled from artillery and mortars our positions next to Mayorsky, Avdiivka, Marinka, Krasnohorivka, Slavny, Taramchuk. Our artilleries have delivered pinpointed attacks in response, and in particular yesterday in the vicinity of the airport, our artilleries have hit the location of one of the bands and gangs, and we have the information that over 20 terrorists were killed and almost 30 got wounded. On Luhansk direction, we detect the activity of shelling in the vicinity of settlement Stanitsa Luhanska. From grenade launchers and firearms, they have fired at our positions more than once, and they also shelled our positions next to the city of Shastya from Grad batteries. Yesterday at 3:20 p.m. on the outskirts of the Stanishno Luhansk settlement, the terrorists have fired from the anti-tank hand grenade launcher the minivan on which the policemen of the Battalion of Patrol Service Chernihiv were moving. As a result, 3 policemen were killed and 5 got wounded. The militants do not abandon their attempts to take the Bakhmutivka highway under control. This is a very important location because the control over this highway will allow the militants to create a threat from the west for our forces that defend the city of Shastya. Also under danger will be the Luhansk electric station. In the vicinity of this highway, the militants have 4 times shelled from Grad batteries and mortars the road checkpoint of the National Guards and armed forces next to the village of Krymsky and Izbenka. Also next to the city of Hirske, they shelled our positions from grenade launchers and mortars, and next to the settlement of Frunze. On Mariupol direction, the militants have twice shelled our positions next to Chermoklik and Mykolaievka from Grad batteries, and also from artillery, mortars, and small firearms, our positions next to villages Granitny, Chernenko, and Pavlopil. However, the situation in Mariupol itself remains calm and controlled. Over the last 24 hours, there were no combat clashes on the border beyond the boundaries of anti-terrorist operation, and there were no violations of the airspace of Ukraine. Yesterday at 10 a.m. in Donetsk region, next to the settlement Konstantinivka, the border patrol, having the information from the security service of Ukraine, have averted a sabotage act on one of the car bridges. They have detected and confiscated a explosive device from plastic. 6 Ukrainian military were killed and 9 got wounded over the last 24 hours. The Ukrainian authorities are preparing a decision on the compensation of damages to citizens that were inflicted by military action. After this decision, the people would be able to get material compensation and repair their dwellings or buy other dwelling in a safer place. In order to get this compensation, you have to get a special document that your property was damaged or ruined. From Chernivtsi to the east of Ukraine, a lorry with humanitarian food assistance went to the east of Ukraine. Humanitarian aid was collected by members of the state emergency services, and volunteers helped to deliver the cargo. It came to the city of Severodonetsk, Luhansk region, and included flour, sugar, water, and some homemade preserves. Yesterday, the humanitarian situation on the territory is controlled by militants is becoming sharper. Yesterday, in the city of Chervono-Partizansk, there was a mass impromptu gathering of citizens who expressed their dissatisfaction with the actions of terrorists. Yesterday, Ukraine has got the unanimous support of the members of G20 summit and presidents of the countries of Visegrad 4. And one of the main instruments of the West is still the opportunity to further reinforce the regime of sanctions. The European countries and USA are united in their attitude towards this crisis and are full of decision and are resolute not to allow the frozen conflict on the European continent. President Poroshenko, during his meeting with the President of Germany, Joachim Gauck, agreed to start a new format of cooperation. The Ukrainian head of state said that they agreed on the setting up of constant interaction at the level of ministers of foreign affairs and defense of Ukraine and the Visegrad 4. Bronislaw Komorowski, the president of Poland, said that Visegrad 4 are in solidarity and support Ukraine that opposes the Russian aggression. The president of Hungary, János Áder, and the president of Slovakia, Andriy Kiska, also joined the support of Ukraine. Andriy Kiska said that Slovakia will further support Ukraine, will stand on the position of support of international law as far as sovereignty and territorial integrity of Ukraine is concerned. Besides, during the joint press conference with a Slovak colleague, Petro Poroshenko said that Ukraine got guarantees that the Slovak side will provide for the reverse delivery of gas. As a result of the summit of G20, Barack Obama said that sanctions of Western countries against Russian Federation are acting rather strong, and he emphasized the presence, he emphasized that Washington has additional leverage to influence Kremlin. He also underlined that thinks that the aggression of Russia against Ukraine is a threat to the entire world. The head of the European Council, Herman Van Rompuy, said that the ministers for foreign affairs of the countries of EU will discuss the situation in Ukraine and the necessity of further diplomatic action against Russia, including new sanctions. He's saying things that now Russia has to maximally influence the separatists for them in order to stick to Minsk agreements. He also said that Russia should stop the movement of troops into Ukraine and stop the delivery of arms. The Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, Pavlo Klimkin, and the High Representative of EU on Foreign and Security Policy, Federica Mogherini, have signed the agreement about the status of the consultative mission of EU on the reformation of Ukrainian security sector. The mission of advisors in the sector of reforms of security sectors in Ukraine, EUAM Ukraine, was created under the auspices of the Foreign Action Service of European Union. Representatives of the mission will actively cooperate with the Ukrainian public sector and official bodies in order to swiftly and efficiently reform the sphere of national security in Ukraine. The support for Ukraine comes not only from official bodies. In Estonia, on the 21st of October, there was a charity concert, Estonia-Ukraine, and during the concert they collected money for the delivery of first medical aid kits to Ukraine. Concert was the participants in the concert were the orchestra of the Defense Forces of Estonia, well-known Estonian musicians, and also the choir of Ukrainians in Estonia, Ukraine, and the Ukrainian group Haidamaki. As a result of the action, 175,000 euro were collected.
Is there any information about the possibility to have the Minsk meeting? Thank you. The protocol that was signed in Minsk on the 5th of September, memorandum signed on the 19th of September, they are the basis for settlement of the conflict in Donbass. Until they are executed, there's no need to meet again and sign another document. Ukrainian side is ready and is executing Minsk agreements, and we expect that from the other side which violates them. How is the regime of passing organized between Free Ukraine and occupied territories? There's information that some people in the so-called DPR, they from time to time come to Kiev, and there's information that they were coming to Ukraine while the Ill-advised operation was being was going. That even Arbuzov crossed the border. Is there any control in relation to air transportation, automobile transportation? There's a certain section of the border which is marked in red, which is not controlled by official Ukrainian forces. That is why to say exactly who arrives via these cross points, and these are Izvarina, we cannot say who's crossing these border because they are now operating only in one direction. But I mean the border between occupied territories and Ukrainian. For example, a person wants to come from Donetsk to Kiev. How does it happen? Is this person checked? Is it possible to check all people and to stop those who potentially or really supports terrorists? If a person is not a terrorist and is not supporting terrorists, any person comes some checkpoints, crosses some checkpoints which are on the main roads, and if this person does not does not attract attention, and if this person does not show any signs of supporting the terrorists, such person does everything such person wants. But what about railway transportation? Everything's checked. The railway transportation, the vehicles, and the pedestrian crossing as well. Another question.
About this question.
Wait.
Thank you. About this question, I was in Donetsk in the last 3 months, and I touched that now the separatists start to take Ukrainian passports from people who live in Donetsk and in Lugansk. And I saw many times between the block post of Ukrainian army, they didn't let Ukrainian people to pass without documents. And it starts to be a very big problem for people who want to move from Donetsk to Ukrainian territory. Second question today.
Situation, вибачте, перейду.
The situation is really very difficult, especially when it comes to documents which our citizens have who live on the occupied territories of Donetsk and Lugansk regions. But it shouldn't be the passport. It could be any other document which is identification document. There is a list of citizens who are officially in search, and if their name does not coincide with those who are in search, then a person can cross the checkpoint and can move towards free Ukraine.
Today, President Poroshenko said that Ukrainian army is ready for a full-scale war with Russia. Did you think that a real war or full-scale war is going to happen?
Дякую за запитання.
У будь-якому разі.
In any case, whether there is a schedule of start of the war or if there's no time of starting the war, Ukrainian forces are to be ready to development of any situation, even if it is aggression. For that, we have the first line of defense ready. Our units are reinforced. We also have additional technical means of defense and the firing means. We have prepared the additional units of people who are in active reserve, and they are all ready to move in any direction where there might be any aggression. Any other questions from the end? What additional reserves are you talking about? How many? Who requested you to ask this question? Well, every time people are asking how many and what, and these are those who come here with reconnaissance. They want to know where our military are located. I would like to request you, we will never tell you the numbers of people who are on the defense line. We will not tell you how many are in reserve, because that is a military secret. Don't get it personal, sorry. Any other questions? Unless you have any more questions, thank you. The next press briefing is at 12:30, and in a minute we'll be talking